With the impending release of Dark Deity 2 just around the corner at time of recording, I figured we should celebrate by doing a tier list of the Dark Deity 1 characters, because somehow I never did, despite loving the first game. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including my coverage of turn-based strategy RPGs through either, actually well thought out tips videos or silly off-the-cuff tier list videos, then a like on this silly tier list video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. As always, this is going to be just a little bit of an off-the-cuff, casual, no big deal tier list, alright? I've had a lot of people get a little heated over where I place characters and classes and things on tier lists in the past. We're just going off vibes here. We're just having a good time, reminiscing on what to me was a very, very strong entry as a first entry in the indie strategy RPG space by the developers Sword and Axe. So I have my list of characters over here on my left monitor. I've got the tier list over here on my right monitor, so you know where my eyes are going. Let's begin, shall we? And first off, of course, we have Alden. Alden is going to set a very strong precedent very, very quickly, as he is the murder child, and he is going directly into S tier. If you don't use Alden, if you don't know how to use Alden properly, then you are severely missing out. There's a reason that Alden is your Jagan character in Dark Deity 2 from what we've seen of the demo, right? Alden is phenomenal. You make him a battle mage, you give him some thunder magic, and then you laugh as he not only tanks everything that the enemy can throw at him, but does a disgusting amount of damage in the process. He's your growth character. He gets great stat ups, regularly maxes out every single stat that he can get. It's insane. There's really not much more that you can say about him. Like, he literally joins chapter 1 and he whoops ass the entire way through. You will always be happy with Alden, pretty much no matter what you do with him. Even if you don't go the battle mage route, he will still be an absolute monster. Next up, we have Alexa, the resident muscle mommy of the game. And she's fine. She's fine. Probably going to put her solidly in B tier. The fighter tier of classes, that whole class tree, is certainly not the strongest in the game. It certainly has its issues. So she struggles as a result with that, to say nothing of the fact that the class skill is like push, shove. That's pretty useless in a lot of scenarios compared to some of the other things you can do with other characters and other classes. So that said, her stats are definitely solid. She suffers from a late join time, but you can do good stuff with her. And I mean, she does have a very fun sprite, so like, she's not terrible by any means, but she's certainly not going to be the top of the list either. So I think solidly in the middle of the road is good for her. Now, Aurima, I think A tier is for Aurima. Aurima is awesome. He's an adept, so of course he has access to a bunch of different good classes, a bunch of different good spells, has a lot of versatility in how you want to play him, whether you want him to be a Gale with the physical spear stats, or like a Blaze or something like that to do some magic damage, or be kind of tanky, different stuff. Like, you've got options here, and on top of that, Aurima is just a very strong character in general. Would I say he's the best adept in the game? No, because Bianca exists. We'll talk about her in a second. But he's probably second best, I would say. There's a lot of adepts, but Aurima is definitely a strong option. And every time I've used him, I've been happy with him. So he's not the best of his class, but I definitely think he deserves to exist in A tier. So that is where we'll leave him. Next up, we have Benji. And unfortunately, as much as I love Benji, of course, we all love Benji. His whole personality is great. The whole meme around his character is great, but not actually that good, unfortunately. Can he pop off? Absolutely. And that's pretty much any character in Dark Deity, if you treat them right, can be potentially strong, but he's so limited in what he can do. Like, he's got physical attack and he's got defense and HP, and kind of looking a little rough after that. So while he can hit really hard, it can be very hit or miss on whether he's actually able to perform in combat. And sometimes keeping him alive, especially when there's mages around, can be an absolute nightmare. So, unfortunately, while I have made good use of him in the past, and I do love the guy, I don't think he really deserves to be anything higher than C tier. He can be alright. He can. But it's not the best look either. Now, you want to talk about the best look. My personal favorite character in the game, and potentially one of the stronger characters in the game, I would say, it is Bianca, and she's absolutely going directly in S tier alongside Alden. Now, why is this the case? It's because you give Bianca the bonk hammer, right? B is for Bianca, B is for bonk, but S is for superlative, and that is what her combat role is. You stick her in the middle of a group of enemies, you let her bonk all over their faces, get HP back, be generally pretty tanky and durable in the process, and you can very easily have her weaken, if not outright kill, a huge flank of the enemy. Then once you get to your final like tier 3 and the bonk hammer becomes a 2-range attack, it's over, man. One of my favorite class sprites in the game, one of my favorite animations in the game, and even now that healing has been nerfed fairly significantly down, I believe it started at 33% of the damage that you would deal, you would get back in HP. It's now down to 20%, which you definitely feel, but even so, she's able to perform so well. Absolutely phenomenal unit, and if you want to use her as other classes in the adept tree, like, that's fine, you can do that, but objectively speaking, Bonk Bianca, if you will, is the right way to go, and she has always been one of my best, if not my best, unit. Moving on to Brooke, and I think this is where the letter of our name is going to coincide with the tier. I don't think Brooke is C tier, and she has the advantage of being a thief, which just automatically makes her a lot stronger than other characters, honestly. But the combination of her personal skill and her stats have never really worked out for me, so I think she's going to go solidly in B tier. B is for Brooke. Now, why is this the case? To me, Brooke has always felt like she wants to be a duelist, based on just like the way her personal skill works and her stat spread and all that type of stuff. But duelist has always felt like the weakest of the thief classes to me. Maybe you could say, what is it, Raider, the cavalry with the axe. But she's never played the way that I expected that she would play, and she always dies for me. Now that said, again, the thief class is like probably one of the best in the game. Like, just the sheer potential for dodge tanking and crits and instant kills and all that type of fun stuff is exceedingly strong. And she's not the worst thief option, we'll get to that, but she's definitely the most middle of the road. So I think B tier suits her just fine. Now we have our good friend Caius. We're moving on to the C's, and I was initially more down on Caius, but my most recent run on Deity, he's actually been one of my MVPs, so I think we're going to bump him solidly up to A. Archers are, as always, are a little rough in turn-based strategy RPGs, and I regret saying that because, you know, I am a certified archery instructor, so it's a little bit of a shame, but Caius does have a lot of really strong capability for accuracy and high target, or high power single target damage, which, especially when you're playing on Deity, is massively important, especially for sniping like priority targets like mages and stuff. I've found he's extremely good for that. Like, of all the archers, probably one of the best for that, honestly. So I think just solidly A tier. I don't think there's ever really going to be an archer that gets higher than that. Possibly Maiev. Maybe you could have an argument for S tier, but of the standard archers that you typically use as an archer, I think Caius is probably my favorite, so A tier feels good. Now, Sia, oh boy, see you later as she rockets up to S tier. As always, thieves are phenomenal, and Sia herself is almost single-handedly responsible for dodge tanking being nerfed from the original release of Dark Deity 1 because she was just nuts. Her dodge capabilities, her crit capabilities, her overall potential, not just for damage output, but just for distracting the enemy. Like, again, the Thief class tree is possibly the best in the game, and she embodies why that is so well. She's not quite as powerful as she used to be, again, with the dodge nerfs, but even so, like, Sia is nuts, man. You're always happy to have Sia on your team, so when you have such an auto-include character, I really don't think they could be anywhere other than S tier. Now we have Corvin, and Corvin is an interesting one. Corvin... to me, Corvin's like discount Brooke. He's also a thief. But he's never even performed as well for me as Brooke has. And that's a little bit of a shame. It's weird, because it's like you have such a strong class tree, but then you have these characters that, due to either the way their personal skills work or the way their stat distributions work or whatever, never quite hit the way that you want them to hit. And unfortunately, I think C is for Corvin here. By all rights, he should be way better than he is. But I don't know, man. I don't know. He's just never hit for me. And again, when you're using a glass cannon class like Thief, if you can't dodge consistently, if you can't have that sort of dip, duck, dive, dodge, in and out of the shadows, pop out, stab, fade back into the shadows, if you can't do that consistently, then the whole plan just falls apart. And without that plan, what are you even doing? So Corvin, I think, goes solidly in C tier. Now, moving on to our only E-name character, it is Elias, and he is an interesting one, because he was definitely more contentious on release. He definitely felt way worse on release, because he was so slow. But he was also an adept, and adepts are very, very strong. He was also your first adept, and if you could get him going, especially like made him a blaze, so he could get massive power boosts on the regular, he would suddenly start to hit. Now he's been buffed. His speed is better. His stats in general are better. I think he's solidly B tier. He's definitely not the best of the adepts, not by a long shot, but it also doesn't feel bad to use him. And honestly, the more adepts you have on your team, the better, especially because they're so versatile in what they can do. Just even using him as a chain bot, honestly, is perfectly acceptable. Like, he'll be tanky enough to survive a few rounds of combat. He can lock down a dangerous enemy. Sometimes that's all you need, man. So, solid middle-of-the-road character. A good spot filler if you don't have anyone else to put into a given deployment slot, right? Now, moving on to the F names with Faust, the meme lord himself, and our first healer on this list, actually. Faust is just great. I mean, all healers are pretty much great. They have a lot of versatility in their class options. They can be tanks, like traditional like D&D style clerics. They just do healing, which is also very, very important. He's a really strong character, and he's got a really interesting stat spread that could make him an absolute bomb damage-wise as well. So, he's not my personal favorite healer, honestly, but he is really good, and you're always happy to have him on the team, so I think A tier works out quite well for him. Next up, we have Fenton, and Fenton is our resident dwarf. He's got that just lovely grin on his face, and he's certainly not bad, but much like with Alexa, he's locked into the warrior, the fighter archetype, and it's not the best, man. He's kind of slow. He's very tanky, as you would expect from a dwarf. He can hit decently hard, but you have better options in the archetype. Again, he's not bad. He's a good spot filler, especially if you've had someone who's taken a lot of wounds and just been, like, horribly crippled over the course of the campaign. You're happy to put Fenton in. So I think he does belong in B tier. He's certainly more reliable than Benji, that's for sure. So, yeah, that feels like a good spot for him to be. Oh, now Ford. Oh, Ford. Ford, unfortunately, is going to be our first D tier. I love Ford. I love Ford's character. Like, the drunken shipmaster is always fun, but it really feels like he wanted any other class than Thief. He's just not dodgy enough for it. He also hits like a wet noodle. Like, I don't know what I've ever done wrong with this guy, but I've never once had him deal consistently high damage, and I cannot figure it out. Like, it's not because of an aspect. I don't think it's because of any of his skills. It's just something's weird with Ford. On top of the fact that he doesn't really dodge, he doesn't really have physical durability, he just feels bad to use all around. So, yeah, I think he's just our legitimately first bad character. It's a shame to see. Next up, we have Garrick. Garrick is another interesting one. I definitely like other archers better. He's not bad, but he's also typically the first party member that I bench for other options. You can use him well, he can fill his role well, but I don't think he belongs any higher than C tier. He's just not a super interesting character, not an interesting unit either from a gameplay standpoint. I think it's just where he goes. Next up, we have Helena. Moving on to the H names, or maybe Helena. Not entirely sure how that should actually go now I think about it. She's another fighter, you know? Like, she's good. Much like all the other B-tier fighters, she can fill her role well. You always want to have someone on the front line. You can make her into a good Dragoon, potentially. I've made good use of her, but she's also never been my most impressive character, so I think solidly in B tier is exactly where she wants to be. Not a whole lot else to say about her other than that. Now, moving on to the I names, we have Iris, and has... boy. This is where I have to quell my personal bias. Yes, my personal bias for Iris. Because I love her character design, I love her voice acting, I love just everything about her, personally, just from like a design standpoint. And she's just a solid adept, but she's been very hit or miss for me. Obviously, you know, if you know anything about her story, she brings the storm. She's the reason that all the storm spirits attack Ford's ship as you're going through that chapter of the game. So, of course, you make her a surge, but for whatever reason, kind of like Ford himself, she's been very feast or famine for me. So, of the adepts, I'd say she probably belongs in B tier with Elias. I don't really know that we'll have an adept that's lower than that, just because of the nature of the class itself. But my personal bias makes me want to put her a tier higher, because she's cute, and she's got a fun design and a fun story. So, yeah, it's my tier. It's my tier list, damn it. It's my tier list, and Iris is going to go in A. Deal with it. Speaking of I-name units that are probably going into A tier, we have Irving, of course, the protagonist of the game. Probably the best fighter/warrior in the game, I would have to say. You can do pretty much whatever you want with Irving. I've used him as every job or every class in the skill tree at this point over various runs, and he's always performed well for me. Shout out to Dragoon Irving, absolute unit. Champion Irving as well, of course, obviously does great work. So the nature of the class limits him. I don't think there's really an argument to put any of these types of characters in S tier, but for what he has to offer, Irving definitely does a very good job, and he supports the team as well. So, definitely a very solid option. Now, Liberty. Liberty is actually, funny enough, our first typical mage after Alden. And unfortunately, she has to live up to the shadow of Alden, and that means that she's just never going to be as good. However, that said, the mage class line is also very, very strong, has a lot of very good potential to it. She's not my favorite out of all of them, but kind of like some of these other characters we talked about, you're never really mad to have her either. So I think she goes solidly in B tier. Lincoln Logs, my man. Lincoln's going solidly in A tier. Lincoln is kind of your Jagan of the game. He's also a healer. He's also a frontline tank with a big maul that can hit really hard, but his accuracy kind of sucks as a result. That said, healers, again, have phenomenal utility in this game with all the different roles that they can fill, and Lincoln, being such an early recruit, coming in at a higher level, and then being so ridiculously tanky as well, means he can pretty much always find a battlefield role, even if you don't really spec out his weapons to be able to hit stuff that often. Just being able to take hits and then heal your allies is great. He's phenomenal as an Inquisitor, I should say. An Inquisitor? I don't know what I was going for there. He's phenomenal as a Guardian. I really, really like the guy. Just don't have him cast magic. Doesn't really work out well for him. You're always happy to have him. I use Lincoln in pretty much every playthrough that I do. Now, Maiev. Maiev is an interesting one. I don't think she's going to hit S tier. I've definitely had a lot of ups and downs with Maiev, but if you can get her going into like a duelist or sort of the name is escaping me at the moment. The tier 3 dual sword wielding duelist type things, like something sword master, whatever it is. She can absolutely whoop ass, absolutely. Especially if you give her the right aspects with her personal skill. Like, she can do really, really good work. But that class line is very fragile and doesn't have quite the dodginess that the Thief class does. So you have to play very, very safe with her. So I think she does go in A. She can be a phenomenal archer. I've actually had great times using her as a witch hunter in my most recent run of the game on Deity. She's been very good at that. So pretty much whatever you have her do, she's going to do well. But she's not a one-woman army the way that our other S-tier characters are. So I think A is a good place to have her. And now, of course, Marin herself. Marin's tough. She's a healer, so she's very strong, much like we talked about with Faust and Lincoln. The issue with Marin is she is a traditional Fire Emblem cleric healer, stuck in a job that actually wants her to be hitting things in melee and be kind of tanky. And that's not really her role. She's not very accurate. She's not very tanky. She does not hit very hard. And while, yes, you can then wind up speccing her into something like Priest so she can attack from range, and she's very good at that role in terms of healing, she still really has bad accuracy and bad damage. And a lot of healers want to either be able to stand on the front line and tank for their allies, then heal, or heal their allies and then also be able to attack from range with magic. And she's just not good at attacking at all. So of the healers that we have on offer, I think she has to go solidly in B tier. She will always have utility. Again, you will never feel bad using her because she will always be doing something for your team, but she doesn't round out the capabilities of the class the way that other characters do. So I think that's kind of the best way to go about looking at her as a character compared to other healers and just the other characters in the game as well. Next up, you want to talk about guys who fulfill all of the roles of his class. Monroe. Monroe is easily an S tier character. Now, again, this is a character that did get nerfed a bit due to the way they changed mastery scaling and things, because originally, Monroe was, like, literally untouchable. The way that mastery modified, like, your true speed and dodge and all that type of fun stuff meant that even as a squishy mage, he had huge amounts of HP. He would always double attack. He would do massive amounts of damage, and he could dodge pretty much anything. Like, he was the epitome of the one-man army. And as soon as you recruited him alongside Ford and Iris, it was just like, I don't need to use anyone else. All the mages have gone out the window except maybe Alden because he fulfills a very different role. But, like, now that he's been brought down, it doesn't feel like Monroe outstrips the rest of the cast to nearly the same degree, but he's still massively strong, and he's always, always, always deserving of a spot on your team. So, S tier it is. Now, Rose, I literally did not remember what her name was. I kind of forgot this character existed. Rose is one of your other archers, and I don't remember ever having any sort of a compelling reason to use her. She never played well for me. I don't even remember what her personal skill was. It can't have been anything particularly useful. So I think she's going to join Ford down in D tier. Maybe there's something that I'm completely missing here, but she literally has never left an impact on me in any of the, like, 5 or 6 playthroughs of the game that I have now. It's a pretty damning statement to make, so I think D is for damning here. Rose, I'm sorry. You just don't do anything. Now, speaking of someone that does do something, we have Samara. Samara is a very nice pre-promoted healer that you get fairly early on in the game, and she's usually my first Guardian. However, she really never leaves much of an impact, especially because she then does leave for a while and then returns later once you have other more capable healers online. As a healer, she will never be worse than B because, again, like Marin, you will always have a use for her. And kind of like Marin, she's not a great attacker. I like her for it a little bit more, but all of her utility comes from her class. She herself really doesn't bring anything to the table, so there's nothing that makes her stand out. B tier is where she's going to sit. Now, her sister, Sarah, different story. Sarah is solidly A tier. Sarah is a great utility caster. I love using her as a trickster. She's phenomenal for making the rest of the team better. She never really hits that hard, in my experience, which is part of the reason that she's not going to be in S tier alongside like Alden and Monroe, who can just crush. But for a pure support and kind of assist unit for the rest of your army, she's always a good choice to have. I never feel bad about using her. I'm not nearly as liable to drop her as I am Samara. So yeah, I think A tier is a perfectly good place for her to be. Now, Sloane. Sloane is an interesting one. Sloane is by far the most glass cannon-y of all the mages in the game, I would say. She has no defense whatsoever, which is not surprising if you look at her outfit. It is just paper-thin lace, essentially. So she gets hit really, really hard, and she doesn't dodge particularly well. But if you can get her set up with a good drain tank build, you could potentially have something going on there. And she does hit really, really hard. Unfortunately, especially on Deity, she's slow. She's not particularly accurate. So while she can have moments where she really pops off on priority targets, she doesn't have the well-rounded survivability of some of our other mages. So I think she's probably going to go in C tier. I think she, across all of my runs, is the mage that I've used the least. And she very often gets swapped out to add Liberty to the team when I am using her, because by that point she's like probably taken a bunch of wounds because she's so fragile. Better just get someone in there who's not as debilitated in the same way. So, sorry, Sloane, but it is what it is. Now we have Sophia, and Sophia is a fun one. I think she's definitely B tier. Sophia is another character that you don't really mind having her, and because of her personal skill with Butters, you want her to be double attacking and potentially proccing the extra Butters damage as often as possible. but she's not really a frontline fighter, but you want her to be fighting as often as you can, so typically you want to make her a melee fighter. She can get the nice bonus damage as an archer, but then she's not really making the most of her kit. It's just a little awkward. She, again, kind of feels like a character that wants to be in a different class. Like, if she was more of a thief, I think she'd be a lot stronger. So, as it is, definitely a very solid damage dealer, definitely fragile, and often not quite as fast as you would like her to be, or doesn't really hit as hard as you would like her to be either. You really need the Butters procs to come in for those extra chips of damage to really shine. But when it does, it does. So I think B tier is where it's at, but definitely a character that is likely to get used for a while and then benched. All right, we got our final three here, and they are all good options. First of all, we have Thaylenel, and I think Thaylenel is very solidly S tier as well. He's kind of your definitive Gale, I would say. His personal skill means you're just going to be getting a bunch of extra attacks, a bunch of extra damage. His stats are great. I found maybe his growths aren't as good. He has a little bit of a lower ceiling overall. But most of the time, he's going to be hitting so hard, so consistently, just through ability usage, that his actual stats as you level him won't really matter as much, especially if you're staying on top of his weapon upgrades. So he's just a great option. He can be a really good choice for either Gale or Surge. You generally don't want to put him into the other adept classes, but even then, he does a great job. So I think S tier definitely where he fits. Now we have Vesta, my personal favorite healer in the game, and she's kind of like Lincoln Plus in a lot of ways, but a Lincoln that can also use magic, which is nice. She's just a great healer. Like, she's tanky, she's got utility, she's versatile in terms of being able to do the physical classes, do the magical classes. If you don't like Lincoln, or your Lincoln's gotten a bunch of wounds, or just hasn't leveled well for you or whatever, it's an easy swap with Vesta as soon as you get her. And even if you don't want to swap Lincoln out, swap out Marin. Swap out Samara. That's usually what I do. Samara usually leaves my team permanently as soon as I have Vesta available. So, like, that kind of justifies her being a tier above right there and then. Absolutely phenomenal healer. Not S tier by any means, but very, very strong. Finally, we have Ren, and like Sia before him, he is an easy S tier character. Now, they are both thieves, of course. They're both extremely dodgy as a result. But if you look at the two characters, Sia is definitely the lighter damage, much dodgier version, whereas Ren is the slightly less dodgy, but still very dodgy, but absolutely lethal version. You want Sia to be dodge tanking, you want Ren to be assassinating things, which makes sense because he is the edgelord assassin, right? I've never been unhappy using Ren, like, ever. He's just always extremely strong. He's always extremely lethal, as he should be. He's a very easy include on the team, and will very often knock out any other thieves that you're using other than potentially Sia that you maybe were, like, fine with up to this point, but as soon as he's with you, it's like, all bets are off. Like, Ford, nah, get out of here. If he even survived up to this point, as soon as Ren joins up, it's like, nah, Ford, we're literally putting him out to sea. It's fine. As far as the overall list is concerned, I feel pretty good about this one, actually. I don't think there's really anyone that I would shift around too much. I have quite a lot of experience with Dark Deity at this point, so I know these characters pretty well, with the exception of, like, Rose, who, again, is just so forgettable, unfortunately. So I feel pretty good about this. Of course, these are just my opinions, operating on vibes. If you think you know the game better than I do, or you just really want to apply a little bit more of a serious critical lens to this, which I am certainly not doing, by all means, let me know in the comments. If you want to chime in, let me know, maybe I forgot about this insane synergy, or the way this character works with this aspect, or, oh, well, their personal skill means that they're actually really good in this niche case, so they should be a tier higher. Whatever you'd like to do, just keep it civil, be polite to me, be polite to your fellow commenters, and strike up some good discussions, because these tier list videos typically do have a lot of good discussion going on in the comments, which I always enjoy. For now, though, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Of course, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Thank you all so very much for watching. I will see you all in the next one coming up very, very soon. We're definitely going to be covering Dark Deity 2 as soon as that comes out, so look forward to that. And until then, I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.